I posted a video yesterday talking about how a client of mine, his cholesterol and his testosterone are directly linked because that's how that works. Your cholesterol is needed to produce testosterone. And I got a follow-up question in my DMs that I thought all of you could benefit from. And it said, aren't there like 3 types of cholesterol? So yes, kind of. There is your total cholesterol number, and that is made up of your HDL and LDL. The important thing to know about your cholesterol, sorry, sitting in the front yard and there's lots of cars going by at the moment, is that your cholesterol is 80% self-made, meaning your liver, particularly if it's healthy, produces most of it. If you did a simple Google search of what is my HDL versus my LDL cholesterol, what it's going to tell you is that your LDL cholesterol is bad. It's not bad. It is created by your liver. Therefore, how can it be bad? It is more dense than your HDL cholesterol. And so therefore it has a chance to become more inflammatory. What we'd really like to see is that your HDL cholesterol is above 75. It's usually an indication that you have fairly healthy muscle tissue and that metabolic processes in your body are going fairly well. So we want an HDL cholesterol above 75. In the 1960s, prior to the advent of statin medications, it was very common to see cholesterol levels in the 260s. For women, usually closer to the 240s, 220 to 240, but for men in the 260s. And then we got statin drugs, and it's gradually declined since then. And so the acceptable level has also declined. So if we look at the research that we have on the blue zones, which is where people live into their 8th, so 80, 9th, and 10th decade of life, with the most independence and the most health with the least amount of complications and diseases, we see that their total cholesterol ranges between 199 plus or minus 30 points, with their LDL cholesterol sitting at about 97 plus or minus 30 points. So let's say your LDL cholesterol is in 130, and that's still within an acceptable range, basically, according to the blue zone data. And then your HDL cholesterol is 100. Your total cholesterol would be 230. Does that make sense? One thing that has not changed since the advent of statins is heart disease. Every single president, with the exception of the current one, has had a campaign against heart disease. And the American Heart Association published in 1998, they were aware. In 2008, they were aware. In 2012, they were aware because they published data on their website that said, we know that homocysteine is the biggest single indicator of whether or not someone will have a heart attack in the next 5 years, independent of what their cholesterol is. And if you start talking to cardiologists, you can ask them how many of your clients had a heart attack while they also had a healthy cholesterol level. You'll be surprised by the number because a healthy cholesterol number is determined by the average of what they're seeing in labs of Americans that are getting lab work done. And if I tell you that the #1 prescribed drug in the United States is a statin drug, would that surprise you? And I'm sure I don't have to tell you that the research studies showing that your great-grandfather probably has better testosterone levels than you do is not a shocker. And that the studies from the 70s and 80s even show that men in their 60s had better testosterone levels than men in their 20s today. Over those same decades, because so many people have gotten put on statins, the total cholesterol numbers have dropped. So, like in the 1960s, the average that we saw was 260 for men, for women, 240. In 1988, the average cholesterol was 206. It dropped 60 points, basically, 55 points in 20 years. The lab reports that I get back now from average labs that are not functional medicine labs, if someone's cholesterol is above 160, it gets flagged as high. Now, another number that people consider part of the cholesterol panel, but it doesn't factor into your total cholesterol, is the triglycerides. And the triglycerides are another lipid that we should be looking at because when they end up high, so we get them above 100 to 110, we start to notice that metabolic syndrome is happening. There's some kind of hormone imbalance happening in the body. There are things that are starting to happen in relationship to that that can be hypoglycemia or hyperglycemia, so low blood sugar or high blood sugar. It can be low testosterone. It can be an imbalance of estrogen and testosterone for women. It can be insulin resistance and you're not aware of it. The other thing to look at is if your triglycerides get too low, usually that's also a marker for, uh-oh, we might have something autoimmune popping up. Now, the converse side of that is when we see them go sky high, we can tell there's been a lot of inflammation in that body for a really long time, and they're trying to act protective because triglycerides are also a fuel for the cells when you are fasting or when you are exercising. So, when you are doing like a ketogenic lifestyle, you are burning triglycerides for fuel. Now, triglycerides also can be an indication of poor nutrition habits. So you're either taking in too many fats that your body can't process, and that's a genetic thing, believe it or not, or you are taking in too many carbohydrates and not paying attention to what type or quality of carbohydrate those are. You do also make some triglycerides in the liver, but they primarily are a dietary source of lipids. You want your triglyceride range to be somewhere between 70 and 100. When we get below 70, we're looking at, oh, we have a problem with autoimmune probably popping up. When we get above 110, we start thinking hormone imbalance, particularly insulin resistance. And we also start thinking, oh, is the testosterone off? Is the estrogen off? Are we having trouble with monthly cycles? Are we having trouble with fertility? If you need more information about how you can restore a proper cholesterol level in your body, or how you can in general improve your metabolism of every healthy cell in your body and gain more healthy cells in your body, click the link below.